Do you know, a doctor once told me that if I didn't give up the drink and the drugs and the wild ways, I'd have 6 months to live. That was 10 years ago, and I have lived every day and night as if it was my last.
Errol Flynn. They don't make him like that anymore.
He's a rascal, that one.
There's a certain someone very much like to meet you.
Who?
Errol Flynn. You know who he is, don't you?
Sure, Robin Hood.
Woodsy!
I'm only in the chorus line.
That's just for now.
She'd be perfect, don't you think? Very good. I've been looking for you all day.
Errol Flynn, baby. This is the big time.
I would really like to help her, get her career going full steam.
Well, you're flying too close to the sun, my friend. Your wings will get burned, you're gonna fall down to earth.
How did her audition for you go?
No dice, Errol.
It's a shame. You see, we're sort of a package deal.
You're not serious. Well, that makes things awkward.
I can't stop thinking about you.
You blatantly lied to me, to my face.
I am the devil incarnate.
I'll just go. You can't stop me.
You just try it, Missy, and you see how far you get.
The studio can't protect you anymore. And the public never forgets.
You don't have to remind me, sport. I live with it every day.
This is her shot. You can't say no.
You will behave appropriately. Got it?
Errol Flynn met his match in Beverly.
Stay out of it. It has nothing to do with you. It's the most fun I've ever had.
You might say that.
Beverly's whole life has been about show business. And I ought to know because I'm her mother and she told me everything.
It's the way he wants it.
But that doesn't mean that's what he's going to get.
Mom, he's Errol Flynn.
Are you out of your mind?
You bet. Loving every minute of it.
One line, that's it.
Well, I had more.
No, they always do it. They cut a lot of my lines as well.
You know, I find it so ironic that Dakota Fanning became famous with audiences for being so natural as a child actor, and she seems so stilted as an adult actor. I think she really sticks out like a sore thumb here. She makes Kirsten Dunst look good. And this is kind of the role that Kirsten Dunst would usually play, maybe a couple of years ago, and maybe Dakota Fanning is heading in the Kirsten Dunst direction, which is unfortunate for both of them, but at least they're both still working. And I guess this is a tried and true practice now in Hollywood, where you just take any indie role you can get your hands on, and just, you utilize the fame that you once had to add some credibility to these small projects that otherwise really wouldn't get a lot of attention. The reason I'm reviewing this trailer, though, is because I looked it up, and this actually happens to be a true story. I don't want to give too much away because I know there are some of you who like to be surprised. I'm really into biographies, especially in the entertainment industry. So the fact that this seems to be largely based on fact, I mean, I'm sure they fudge a few things as they often do, unfortunately, in Hollywood biographies, but they look like they're telling a pretty honest story about the kind of man Errol Flynn was. And this Beverly character, played by Dakota Fanning, who was to some degree his undoing. So I think it's really interesting to explore this part of Errol Flynn's life. I think that because of the production code, if you're not familiar with that term, it's a code in Hollywood that existed for quite a long time in the, I believe, the 40s, 50s, and to some degree the 60s, I'm not quite sure, where you could only show certain things in a film. You could not be inappropriate. You couldn't have anyone benefit from doing evil deeds. They had to be punished at the end. It was a very strict moral code that was imposed on movie making. And I think that kind of, not only I think were audiences in large part pleased because they could trust any movie that basically came out, but also I think it created this idea of that this is what people were like, a false idea though, and I think that when people look back at this period in time, they think, well, everyone was nicer, and people who were mean were punished, and it's like, that's not true. That was just true on the silver screen because Hollywood made it that way. But just like people in all walks of life in the 40s, 50s, and 60s were just as complicated and in as many gray areas as people are today, the same can go for Hollywood, the Hollywood personas, just as dark and just as twisted as some of the stars you see today, and perhaps even more so, because while today someone like TMZ will out you, back then the studio system did a great job of covering up whatever dirty deeds you had done or dirty things you were into. So it gave a much greater degree of freedom to these celebrities to kind of indulge their hedonistic urges, because nobody would ever find out about it. I remember reading a famous story, I'm going to cover also something in Morning Movie News today about a character who was involved in these kind of shenanigans. But I also remember reading recently about a guy who worked at a gas station down the street from one of the Hollywood studios, and he would get prostitutes, male and female, for male and female, movie stars. He was a well-known resource for them because they were bored on the lot. So I just think that it's fascinating that these things were going on, and Hollywood was able to do such a good job of covering it up, and nobody knew. And I think it's important. I don't like false, images. I don't like false history. I think I think it's great that more historical accuracy is coming out. For instance, 12 Years a Slave, really truly exploring the gray areas of slavery at that time, and that there were people both free and enslaved living side by side in the North. I mean, that was like one of the most fascinating things about that movie to me, because it never has been explored. So I think it's great to go into Errol Flynn's past. Some people might say, leave the guy alone. He entertained millions. Let him have his secrets. But I think that you need to understand the individual, you need to understand the cost, and what the entertainment industry can be like. I mean, how can you guard yourself against these things or go find out where they're happening if you don't know about them? So what do you think of this trailer? Is this something you think you'd like to see? Are you at all interested in the story of Errol Flynn? And what do you think of Dakota Fanning? Do you agree with me that she's become quite stilted in her acting? Is she the new Kirsten Dunst, or is that an insult to Kirsten Dunst? Or maybe you're still a Dakota Fanning fan and you don't know what I'm talking about. And of course, Kevin Kline, I think, very well cast as Errol Flynn, but I think it really hurts the bankability, the box office potential of this movie. I mean, let's face it. It says Lifetime at the beginning. Looks like something that maybe should be airing on Lifetime, or maybe HBO, or one of those cable channels. It doesn't really look like anyone's going to go pay to see it in a theater. Would you? Write your thoughts down below. Thank you for tuning into my review, and you can check out some more episodes right now.